Hello, here's the problem number 8, and in this problem we need to find out if one string appears in another string. So in our function we will be passing two strings. One first string will be original one, which will be considered if there is any appearances of the second string. If we will be able to find out the appearances of the second string in the first string, we'll just return the first index from the first string. For example, we have this as a first string and this as a second string. So we need to find out if we have this second string apple in our first string. And if we have, we need to return the index where it appears in our first string. So for this particular example, we will need to return 1 because it starts from the index number 1. So how are we gonna do this? First of all, we'll just start comparing the lengths of two strings. If our second string will be greater, we'll just return -1, saying that our second string does not appear in the first string. After that, if our first string is greater than the second, we'll just starting comparing characters from our first string with the first character of our second string. Like if our s is equal to a, if it's not, we'll just go to the next character letter in our first string, and if they're equal, we'll just keep comparing all letters from two strings, and if when we will reach the end of the second string, if all characters will be equal to each other, we'll just return the index of I. So until we will see that all characters is equal, we'll just keep the index under some value like I. So but if at some point, like if it will be not apple but apple, the equations will be break. We'll go and start our considerations from the beginning. Like we'll go to the p and we'll check if it's equal to a, and at some point when we will see that the substring, the remaining substring length is less than the length of our second string, we'll just return -1 because it will mean that there is no appearances of the second string within the first string. So how are we gonna do this? So in our function, we'll just return integer, and our function will be called str, and the input values will be string s1 and the string s2. So first of all, we'll check if s1 and s2 are not equal to null. If they are, I'll just return 0 or -1 or whatever. Then we will check if second string length is 0 or not. If it's equal to 0, we'll just return again 0, meaning that there is nothing to compare. After that, we'll just initialize for loop with variable I equal to 0, and it will be run through all characters in first string, and we will check if our second string length is greater than first string length. Just let me if it is, we'll just return -1, At the same time, we'll need to compare if our second string length is greater than the sub string of S1, I mean I. So we will go through, so I will be used just to go through all characters in SY, in first string. So we'll also will use our I value to add it to second string, and if the sum of these two integers will be greater than the sum of the length of first string, we'll just return -1, meaning that there is no appearances of the second string within the first string. Then we'll just declare integer like k equal to I, and from that we'll initialize another for loop with the j variable, which will go through all characters in the second string. And from that point we'll just keep comparing characters from both strings. So for indexing we'll just use m. If they will become equal to each other, we'll just keep incrementing the m value, but at the same time we'll need to check if we will reach the end of the second string. If we will reach the second string length and it will still equal to each other, we'll just return I value, meaning that we were able to find out the appearances of the first string of the second string within the first string. Until that, we'll just keep going to increment our m variable, and if not, we'll just break our for loop. So this one for this, and at this point we'll just return -1. So we will break it, we'll again start, we'll increment I value, we'll again check if the length and the I plus I is greater than the length of our original string. If it is, we'll just return -1. If it's not, we'll just initialize for loop, just trying to find out if our second string appears in the first string. So time complexity for this particular example, in worst case, for example, if there will be something like ABC with this like C, I think the number of operations will be the number of elements in the two strings, so it will be n -1 because we're using for loop divided by 2, so n squared divided by 2 will be rounded to n squared, and space complexity will be constant because we're not declaring any new data structure. So from here we can test it, like for example, we have these two strings ABC. We take first element from the first string and checks if so we check first of all if the length of I, which is 0, with the length of 2 is not greater. It's not, we go to here, we're defining k equal to I, which is 0, and after that we'll just instantiating j, and we're trying to compare if they're equal or not. Since they're not equal, we'll just break this loop and go to the next element. I will be equal to 1. Again, they're not equal, so our I and k will be equal to 2, which is z, so they are not equal again. Then we'll skip it and go to the I3, which is a, and from that point we'll just see that they're equal each other. We'll keep incrementing k, so it's not m, here it's not m, it's k. We'll keep incrementing k, which is 4. We'll also increment the j value, which is 1. They'll equal each other. Then we will change k to 5 and our j to 2. And once we see that the elements from two strings are equal to each other, and we reach the last element of our second string, we'll just return I value. So meaning that our second string appeared in our first string from starting from the third index.